Well, my dear friends, a very good morning to you. Here we go, start of a brand new work week in the Spice Isle. I'm George Grant saying welcome to the Monday edition of Gudday Grenada. He's chuckling, you'll find out why in just a minute. Certainly hope you folks had a great weekend. I know I certainly did. Let me say thank you to the wonderful birthday present that I received as soon as the program ended yesterday. Nice big dish of oil down. I mean, what more could a guy ask for? Now, here's the reason why he's chuckling. The racing continues, man. The race continues. Hazel wins again this morning. Hazel tops the charts once again. She's first up. Welcome, Hazel, and welcome, Peter Bishop. Antheorello has to settle for third this morning. And we're also seeing Chester there, sneaking in at number 4. My dear friends, full hour for you this morning, so let's get cracking right off the bat, okay? First thing we're going to deal with this morning, we have a little update for you from the National Hurricane Center. There's a system out there in the Atlantic. It's a long way from here, but they're keeping an eye on it. Then we're going to bring you an opinion piece, which we did air yesterday, by the way. It's written by Norris Mitchell, and it is captioned State of Affairs. It's a long piece, but very, very interesting. I thought so interesting, you got to share it with them again this morning. We also have the national report for you. And then, boy, for those of you who were with us yesterday, you know that we had a very, very, very exciting program. We took a look at the situation which occurred this past week, the incident between the Minister of Information and a reporter. So we're going to bring that, an excerpt from that. It went really long. Yesterday's program went about 3 hours and 45 minutes. That's about 3/4 of an hour longer than we normally would, but it was important that we did. A lot of you guys there this morning. John is saying good morning, Gigi. Is that a haircut? We don't see the hair off. Yeah, John. Yeah, you and Margaret also noticed that yesterday. Yeah, I did find a pencil sharpener big enough to... thanks for noticing. Bernard Gilbert saying good morning to you guys. Yeah, here's Margaret. Margaret says, yeah, John, I noticed yesterday. Yeah, leave me alone, guys. Just get off my case. Marvelous Monday, says Benedict. Chris Davies is saying morning from a rainy Satires. Hey, sorry about that, Chris. No, I'm not sorry. You guys needed the rain. We needed the rain in this place. Fitzroy Adams is saying good morning. And is Martine. Hey, John, forgive Martine. We had a character show up on Facebook yesterday. Somebody who was just looking for attention, if you will, you know. Very sad, but believe me, there are a lot of Martines in this place today. And that's one of the reasons why we are where we are. So I don't think Martine's going to show up. Anthony Howard is saying good morning, George and family. Great show yesterday, so I'm back again this morning for more. Well, I certainly hope will please you, because we do have some repeats from yesterday's program. Claude Pudna is saying good morning. Donna Joseph is wishing me a happy belated birthday. Thank you very much. And Chris says, yeah, we're glad for the rain. Pilgrims, let's get down to business here this morning. Let's get down to business. And right now, no need to go into panic mode, please. But the Met Office says that they're keeping an eye on this one. And I pulled this off the National Hurricane Center's website. just a few minutes ago. This was issued at 8 o'clock this morning. Showers and thunderstorms have increased this morning in association with a small low-pressure system which is located over the central tropical Atlantic. Satellite data also indicates that the low has become better defined and environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for the formation of a tropical depression during the next couple of days, while the system moves slowly northwestward to west-northwestward. Okay? That's the reason why these guys are keeping an eye on this. Formation chance through 48 hours is medium. They say about 60% chance over the next 48 hours that it will develop into a depression. Now hear this, formation chance through the next 5 days is high, 90%. Understand now why all eyes are on that system. All right? Now, TF Richards is saying, good morning, family. Long time no see. Yeah, TF. Boy, I think you better check in with Margaret. I sure hope you have an excuse from your mom. Yeah, signed. John Kennison says, no rain here, and we are surrounded by heavy clouds. Yeah, you know, it's not raining here in St. George right now, but it's pretty darn cloudy. We had quite a bit of rain overnight, and in addition to the fact that Sharon wasn't feeling too well this morning, I think that may be one of the reasons why we did not make it to the beach this morning. This op-ed is called The State of Governance, written by Norris Mitchell. And I will begin with a quote. Ill fares the land, to hastening ills a prey, where wealth accumulates and men decay. This quotation is the first two lines from the second stanza of a poem titled Deserted Village by the English poet and novelist Oliver Goldsmith. Goldsmith must have lived in an environment during the 18th century England similar to that of Grenada today, where a large percentage of the population, some say as much as 60%, were experiencing a sense of exclusion, victimization, and deprivation, to have expressed in poetic language the issues of their day through the desperation of his time. 2 years after the end of a 3-year so-called homegrown structural adjustment program, we are reminded ad nauseum how Grenada's wealth is accumulating as our economy is the most robust in the Eastern Caribbean, tourism is booming, and the tax collecting agencies like the Treasury, Inland Revenue, and the Customs are collecting revenue well above the government's projection. In addition, the statistics provided state that from 2013 to 2019, unemployment has been reduced from 40% to 16% or thereabouts, while at the same time, we are informed that the National Insurance Scheme, or NIS, is going broke. Many years ago, during a visit to Grenada by the late distinguished Grenadian economist, Sir Alistair MacIntyre, in a conversation with him, he reminded or enlightened me that there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. How is it then that with all this accumulating wealth, The government refuses to provide funds to pay teachers and public servants their 25% gratuity and pension, as stipulated in our Constitution, while arguing that the Fiscal Protection Act, instituted at the behest of the IMF, only allows 9% of the GDP for emoluments such as pensions, salaries, and wages. Can a recent act which intentionally limits the fiscal space and at the same time pauperizes a large section of the labor force at a time in their retirement when these resources are most needed, be the response of a caring, benevolent government? After the 2013 and 2018 elections, the CARICOM and OAS visiting election observer missions made recommendations to the government on both occasions to make certain changes in the electoral laws in order to ensure that the pre-election and election processes, including the conduct of the election office, were transparent and on a level playing field, where voter padding is a thing of the past and registration a reliable process, where votes are not bought and persons intimidated, so as to ensure a free and fair election which reflects the will of the people, in order to have a representative government of their choice that is not manipulated in the interest of partisan politics with the Machiavellian or satanic urge to be in charge at all costs. I'm sure the public would like to know whether these recommendations have been executed and passed into law, so that the next general election would be undertaken in the manner prescribed by these two international organizations in the interest of preserving what is left of our democracy. The universal expectations from governments are to enhance and empower the people they represent. This being a given, one of the immediate criteria is the health of citizens. This is reflected in the physical facilities and services provided at the General Hospital and the various health centers island-wide. Without getting into the horrid details, it is well known and documented that the present health facilities and services are a continuing nightmare, especially for the poor, the elderly, the unrepresented, and the mentally challenged, without any tangible evidence of a general improvement in the near future. Not far behind health is justice. When the justice system in Grenada is denied the physical structures and facilities to dispense justice, especially to the ordinary citizen, the state becomes a lawless society, which it is fast becoming, as the lawmakers themselves become the law breakers. Although the judiciary is an equal arm of government, it is treated like a bastard child, not worthy of inheritance, to the detriment of the people and the unobtrusive dismantling of law and order, with its consequential social repercussions, which are already occurring. The state of the physical infrastructure in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique must not be excluded from the state of affairs. Without adequate and proper roads, bridges, retaining walls, potable water, especially in rural communities, the maintenance of public buildings such as schools, health centers, courthouses, police stations, etc., The day-to-day function of the state is hampered, and in some cases, grinds to a halt, as efficiency and productivity are confined to a priority of contending players in a third world economy. Development in Grenada these days is the construction of a hotel on a beach, while at the same time systematically destroying nature's assets, which are gifts to pure Grenada. It is expected that the developer for the recently announced new hotel project at La Sagesse in St. David would respect the high water mark laws of Grenada, and to be reminded that all beaches in Grenada are public property with unobstructed access at all times. The Informer newspaper editorial of September 6, 2019, entitled, "Are We Marrying Development and the Environment Effectively?" reminds us of the possible desecration of the pristine La Sagesse area and its environs in the hectic search for jobs. In other words, it must not be development or the environment. It must be development in harmony with the environment in which we live and move and have our being. It would be remiss of me to exclude green places, open spaces from the physical infrastructure. This amenity is the one that provides relaxation and spiritual and emotional wellness to the citizen, while acting as the lungs of the community. Camahan Park, Morne Rouge Pasture, Quarantine Point, Lagoon Road Park, Karani James Boulevard, are the only remaining open green spaces available in the parish of St. George, which should be preserved and upgraded, while in the secondary towns, our playing fields are the only recreational facilities extant. However, an article in the Grenadian Voice newspaper on August 30th, 2019, titled "Camahan Park on the Back Burner," painted a very gloomy picture by the chairman of the Save Camahan Park Steering Committee, who disclosed that the park, which is under the control of the Ministry of Tourism, appears to be selected for benign neglect, as the ministry appears unwilling to cooperate with the Parks Committee in maintaining the facility generally, and in particular, the repairs or replacement of the deteriorating children's furniture and other amenities. On top of that, the huge pile of earth along a portion of the boundary of the proposed Egyptian developer Riviera Hotel site and the park is alternatively emitting dust or sludge, depending on the weather, onto the park, which renders it unhealthy and unusable at times. Echoes of a caring and children-loving government. The policy or practice of building on every available open space without consideration for the health, wellness, and orderly physical development of the nation is a matter of grave concern and reflects the mentality of successive governments to put in place a land use policy which does not appear to be in the interest of partisan politics, but rather provides political leverage in wheeling and dealing with foreign investors at the expense of rational, scientific, and orderly development as a means of empowering our people, which is something that's done in progressive countries of comparable size like Singapore, Hong Kong. Grenada is 21 miles long and 12 miles wide with a population of about 110,000 and a road network that was initially designed in the 18th century for donkey carts and for horse and carriage, not motor vehicles. In any modern progressive country, there is the recognition that there must be a ratio, a sensible balance, if you will, between the carrying capacity of our roads as it relates to the optimum number of motor vehicles it could safely accommodate without causing traffic jams, increasing loss of productive manpower, accidents, and fatal collisions. In my view, the police can only do so much. The large and growing number and size of vehicles on our roads today begs the question, what is the policy, if any, for future importation? This is an issue of national importance if we are to assist in minimizing greenhouse gases, global warming, and rising sea levels, the latter of which could destroy our economy overnight by extensive damage caused by hurricanes to our coastal infrastructure of hotels, restaurants, and seaside villas. This is the time to analyze the effects of these natural phenomena as we contemplate a climate-smart Grenada, together with a moratorium on our vehicle intake before driving ourselves to death on our narrow, winding, hilly, and congested roads. Mr. Dennis Canning's article in The Informer of August 23, 2019, on the existing problems and the future importation of motor vehicles to Grenada with its grave consequences should make for instructive and compulsory reading for the powers that be. The social landscape must not go unmentioned. Man is a social animal. We live in communities. And for its survival and enhancement, certain societal norms must be observed. There seems, however, to be something amiss with our young male population, who comprise almost 100% of the prison population, while our struggling single-parent homes are mothers only, without the necessary or adequate support from the state institutions, could be the genesis of a dysfunctional family. Nothing much is said of the church via the Grenada Conference of Churches. As to its latter-day advocacy, leading the flock to the promised land is unfortunately muted and appears to have lost its moral compass on account of its unusual accommodation of the ills of the political directorate, which, by the way, also applies to other institutions like the Grenada Chamber of Commerce and the Media Workers Association, MWAG. The population of our country is the sum total of the family unit. The strength and integrity of the family is the strength and integrity of the nation. So, pure Grenada, where are we heading as a society? In conclusion, the state of affairs cannot ignore the level of institutional corruption in our society. Only a myopic observer would deny its prevalence. where our lawmakers have become our law breakers, while our institutions are routinely undermined. There was a recent article in the print media which described the high cost of corruption and the debilitating and negative effect it has on development, especially in poor countries like Grenada, where public funds, taxpayers' money, go into the pockets of individuals, enriching a few who are living on the fat of the land with ill-gotten gains, while denying health centers and hospitals of beds, bandages, and drugs, inadequate repairs and replacement of schools and other essential public buildings, potholes in the roads, housing for poor people, not party supporters only, equal opportunity, especially for the youth of all political parties, and of course, justice for all. Reading Goldsmith's Deserted Village was indeed a rude reminder of the parlous state of our Grenadian affairs. Okie dokie. At peace. It's up on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. It's written by Norris Mitchell. Check it out and give some thought. Okay, now, let me get back here to whoosh. Yeah, Chris Davies says she's glad for the rain out there in Satires. Kipling Francis saying good morning to you guys, and so is Charmaine DeLille. Sean out there says, morning, George and fellow listeners. Did you see the storm up there in the Bahamas? I have to admit, this weekend I was a little bit preoccupied, Sean, and didn't pay too much attention. John says, read Camahan Park. Shouldn't even be on the stove, let alone the back burner. Lawrence, hello, Lawrence. I guess he's out there in England. Let's see. Yeah, he says, good morning. I'm here again watching and listening in London. Yeah, nice to have you, Lawrence. T.F. Richards says, government would not put in regulations on the importation of vehicles. Whilst they may make an issue over the age of the item being imported, they would not do so with the quantity. After all, it's their greatest cash cow. It didn't take you too long to get wound up. Hey, did it, TF? He goes on to say, George, I'm listening to this article and asking the question. So we know the meaning of MWAG? Let it be known that it means Mitchell's Workers Association. Yes, Sean, he's got cranked up again. Okay. And John says, T.F. Richards, not forgetting the collected taxes on the fuels these imports use. Oh. Okay, pilgrims, I'll tell you what. We are going to be backlogged this morning. So, what I am going to do is run the piece that we did yesterday on the media incident before I run the national report. We'll get the national report in there at the end, okay? So let's take a little break here now, and we're gonna come back with Sherry Ann and Beverly and Jerry and Claudette and me and the whole little piece from yesterday.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandance, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's. Quality service. Affordable prices.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Alrighty, folks, this past week there was an incident down at the Gardens following a post-cabinet briefing where a member of the media was allegedly floored by a minister of government. Yesterday we spent a pretty long time discussing this. I had an attorney at law, Claudette Joseph, join us. I had two independent journalists in the person of Jerry George, who's one of the usual suspects on McWe Chat, and Beverly Sinclair, who's another suspect on McWe Chat. She's actually the producer. And we also had Callistra Farrier, who was the victim of that alleged flooring which took place. All right. I had invited MWAG. They declined. Okay? I am not able to play you the whole segment this morning, but you may go to, actually you're there right now on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. You can check it out. You can also check it out on Facebook, check it out on YouTube, wherever. But I'm going to run you a segment of that conversation from yesterday. And we will begin with Callistra Farrier explaining what has happened over the past couple of weeks.
People come to you with all kinds of information. If the government can't help them, if they have questions or concerns with the government, they turn to the journalists. And more over the last few years in particular, people have been coming to me with information that they can't clarify or information, things that they feel helpless about. There's a great deal of helplessness that I get from the people now after doing this for quite a while. So one of the things that I've been hearing quite a bit were questions about the absence of the Prime Minister's wife, Mrs. Mitchell, who had been around for 20 something years. And people were asking about that. And there were rumors about the Prime Minister, a practicing Catholic, no longer being married. And so I felt that the only way to address it, I'm a journalist and I don't participate in gossip and rumors, I verify information. And the only place I can verify it, short of seeing a divorce decree, an official document from the registry, which I couldn't find actually, I would ask the Prime Minister. And I had been hoping to get a one-on-one with him. In fact, I requested a one-on-one interview through the press secretary, but that was denied me. So the first opportunity I had at that post-cabinet briefing, I I would have asked. In fact, I intended to ask him several months ago about it because this has been in the air for quite a bit. I intended to ask about it before, but what has been happening is that while GIS, I'm on the email list for GIS, and while they would send notices and so on for press briefings or government news releases, whenever the Prime Minister would appear, I would not receive one such notice, a notice like that. So I would find out by the way that it's the Prime Minister giving the news conference, and of course I would show up. But the one he gave before that last one, I was busy and I didn't follow up with anyone to find out. I noticed there wasn't an email, but I didn't follow up and I missed it. And of course, I was very disappointed because I had that question and several others, in fact, to ask the Prime Minister. So I was happy when I was told by journalists recently that the Prime Minister was going to be there, and I was searching for an opportunity because I am not unaware that the question was a sensitive one. I still maintain it's a question that needed to be asked, and in fact, it's a question that needs to be answered clearly by the Prime Minister. And the response that he gave, while as a journalist and analyzing his response, his demeanor, the words he used, and everything like that, he said more to me there than the public may believe that he said. But it's a question that needed to be asked, and I do not regret asking that question. I would ask it again if it becomes necessary. The Prime Minister is a public figure, and if we look into our statutes and the legislation that governs us as a nation from way back, and Claudette should be able to speak to that. The Prime Minister does owe the public answers on matters relating to his private life that can go towards governance of the country. And so the Prime Minister may have, I believe that the question regarding the Prime Minister's marriage, he may have interpreted other things, other information that's been in the public domain. And he may have been answering to a question I did not ask more than a question that I did ask.
Okay.
And um, I think he hoped that I would miss a beat by talking about not wanting my private life to be discussed. And the minute that I put myself on a ballot in this country, by all means, ask away. But as a private citizen, not offering myself to take responsibility for any state affairs, I would be I would fall under the jurisdiction of a regular citizen, whereas the Prime Minister, he doesn't really, he doesn't. So I'm not phased by don't go there. I understand why I got don't go there, because he felt that he
All
can
right.
get away with it because not many people are asking him to come to account these days.
All right. Let me get a legal. Let me get. Hold on, Beverly. Let me get a legal take on that. Claudette, was she well within her right to ask that question?
Absolutely, George. And as I said on another forum, I don't think I said good morning to your viewers and listeners. Good morning, all, and it's good to be here again. The question was quite in order. The answer to the question was absolutely out of order, and I think the Prime Minister of today owes the public and Callistra in particular an apology for his out of order response. As Callistra correctly says, once you enter public life, there are certain concessions that you must make. Now, granted, our Constitution affords all of us the right to privacy. But as we are taught in law, that your rights only extend, firstly, to the point where they do not infringe on the rights of others, and secondly, where under any statute or convention or norm or obligation, you must concede some of those rights. Now, the Prime Minister's wife, as Felicia said, is somebody we've known by his side in politics from day one. So when certain rumors started surfacing, it was quite in order for Callistra to ask the question, because as a public, we need to know whether we should continue to afford to Mrs. Michels the privileges and protocols and conveniences that we afford her as the wife of the prime minister, or if there is somebody else we should afford those privileges to. So it was quite an orderly question. That's a proper and appropriate question, and the answer was totally out of order if you ask me.
Another point I'm going to make here, Claudette, is that the
Mhm.
public quite often jumps on the back of reporters for supposedly putting out news out there without asking questions and getting the facts. And I think she was doing just that, trying to get the facts without.
Exactly.
Huh? All right.
But George Cassandra is just about the only journalist now we have attending these conferences and asking the hard questions. And I
Yeah,
mean, that's just reality.
I've noticed that. Callistra, you also host the television program, The Business Files. We're not dealing with that this morning. What I want you to do now is let us focus in on what happened last Tuesday. There was a press cabinet briefing at which the Minister of Tourism, who's the parliamentary representative for where St. John, I think, not St. John, St. Mark.
St. Mark.
Yeah, St. Mark. And you were one of the people there asking questions. Let's pick it up from there, from just before the post briefing ended.
If you don't mind, let me start before the press briefing started. Because I did approach the Minister of Tourism and alert her that I was interested in getting a comment from her on the incident which happened at the St. Mark Secondary School. Now, the St. Mark community is enraged and outraged at an incident which happened there about a week and a half ago, where one child was chopped in the head after leaving school, and the community strongly feels that he would have been kept safe and the incident would have been avoided had the police arrived. Now, the police, I have been able to confirm that the police was called at least 4 times by the school and by neighbors in the area. You know, up in St. Mark's, we try to come to each other's rescue. Um, but the police said they had no transportation. Now they're 10 minutes away from the school. They could have commandeered a vehicle. They could have got there, and the community is angry. And so I felt that as the representative for the area and being responsible for paying attention to the resources that are available for St. Mark and so on, that I would ask Dr. Modest to comment on what had happened and probably try to offer an explanation to her people as to why such a thing happened
All right.
in at the St. Mark's Secondary School. So I alerted her when the news conference before it started. I went to the head table and she said to me, "Okay," and I asked one question to her when the question period came. It had to do with small hoteliers not being interested in a government loan that's available to them. They're not taking it, and she was concerned about that. And so I had a question on that, which I asked. Now, reporters before me were able to ask 3, 4 questions. After that first question I asked, I wasn't given an opportunity to ask a second question. In fact, the press secretary, Philomena Robertson, simply interrupted as I was about to continue asking questions of the Minister of Tourism to take questions from an online forum. And for me, that was rude and out of order. But it's par for the course with the press secretary for the last few months. She's been doing that a lot at the news conferences,
I've
and
noticed.
so I was not given an opportunity to ask more questions during the briefing. But once it was over, I approached the minister and said to her, "Can we talk about the issue now?" And she said, "Okay." I asked her the question, and she was just about to begin responding to me. My recorder was out, it was rolling, when we were interrupted by the Minister of Information, who told her, "Do not answer that question. Callistra should ask her questions during the press briefing." No, I have a problem with that for various reasons. What the government is doing is, number one, you're denying people a right to an exclusive. If every question you have must be addressed nationally before you can write a story, it defeats the purpose of an exclusive. And Beverly will tell you an exclusive matters to a journalist. So that's one thing. And so he decided that she shouldn't answer, but she said to him, and of course I have all this on audio. I have an audio version of all this. Unfortunately, I was not using video that day. And she said to him, "Are you sure you don't want me to answer that question? I don't mind answering. I can, I can." And she kept lingering in the room and trying to negotiate with him, but he sort of herded her out the door. And she was still standing on the outside of the room, and I'm on the inside. And he places himself in the doorway and blocks my exits, prevents me from stepping outside. And he was very agitated at that time, and she's talking to him. Obviously, the minister had no interest in answering my question. For 20 something years, I have interviewed doctors, and she's never refused me an interview in the past, mind you. And wanted that this is an incident she wanted to talk about. And so she was at the doorway trying to convince him that he should remove himself from the situation and allow her to speak. But he was adamant that she ought not to answer Callistra's questions. And I was pursuing the situation. I had my recorder out, and I'm thinking, you know what, she may get through. This senior minister may prevail in the presence of this junior minister at some point. I'll be prepared to record her. And but that did not happen. Instead, the senator took certain measures that resulted in me falling down. And even as I was going backwards, he began to mount a defense, in my opinion, because he immediately started to shout. The normal thing would be, and particularly, anyone, but a man in particular, seeing a woman toppling over me, want to reach out and try to break a fall or even help her up. But the senator did not do that. He started ranting at me and calling me a liar and revoking devils and all of that. It was, I have seen a lot and I've been through a lot on this journey of journalism in Grenada. I mean, I've worked elsewhere, but here in Grenada, it's particularly strange sometimes. But Tuesday was the strangest. I'd never encountered such unprofessional behavior, such wanton behavior at the hands of someone who is in the parliament, for heaven's sake. And it was what gets me. It was totally uncalled for. You have to know when to pick a fight with the media, and picking a fight with the media then didn't make sense because what the minister was going to do was get the opportunity to clear the air on something that the people who voted her into office are very angry at right now, and he stopped that from happening. I look at it as a way of um, killing an elephant to try to get at a fly, which really doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right, you mentioned something about invoking spirits. I think he was. It's all over social media that he was casting spirits out of you. Uh, I want you to explain to me exactly what this gentleman was saying.
Well, he said, "I revoke this evil spirit, Callistra. I revoke this evil spirit. You're a demon." And he
You're a
kept
demon.
repeating that. Yes, he kept repeating that over and over. And I see a photo that's going around, which people with their own interests are suggesting was the initial encounter, but this was not the initial encounter. This was me trying to help myself up at that point because I'd been flat on my back on the floor, and was standing over me, shouting down at me. So this is me trying to get back up now, and of course, I'm trying to keep my recorder as close as possible because he wasn't going to stop ranting, it appeared, and I wanted to record everything. And he noticed that I wasn't surrendering my recorder and trying to capture everything he was saying, and he actually threatened and said, put me on anything and you're gonna find out or something like that, which seemed to suggest that he was telling me, if you dare report this, I would take action against
What action? Sorry, I'm not the interviewer here, but this
you.
this is raising my blood pressure cholesterol.
Well,
Random.
the Grenada Informer has a front page story on this because, of course, the Informer did cover the issue. They have a front page story on it. And when the editor called Senator Garraway to get his side of the story and to get a comment, he was threatened with legal action. He was told if they wrote the story, he would sue them.
Oh my. Oh
I
my.
believe I believe they were planning to include that. I haven't read the story yet. I spent Friday at the hospital for hours and didn't get a chance to get a newspaper. So I believe they were planning to include that in the piece that they were doing as well. The senator's threats of legal action if the story was broadcast.
Claudette?
Yes, Kalistra, for the benefit of the public, I would like if you can explain to us a bit more how you landed on the ground, how you got to the ground, because you did not go into those details here. But
Well, because
I would
given that I am pursuing this through formal channels, I was wondering whether or not discussing the details of what happened at this point might be prudent.
well,
You know,
I don't think that there would be any harm. Um, I imagine you would be given a consistent version throughout.
oh, of course, of course, of course.
Right.
What happened
So,
is imprinted on my mind, and I certainly there's no need for various versions. I was just wondering, but you are the lawyer, and if you say that it is okay, I am going to. Here's $1. You're retained. He lifted his arm like this. I'm standing behind him, and he lifts his arm like this, and he starts, Kalishtra, watch, and he shoves
so
me back like this.
so that's why I'm asking, because what we have to consider from a legal standpoint is whether, in fact, um, a battery was committed. Definitely an assault. He did assault you just by his words. Words and gestures can constitute an assault. And based on what you described, I believe you were assaulted and certainly battered by him using his body parts to throw you to the ground. So I don't know on what basis he would be threatening either you or any media house with legal action. That's complete ignorance, and I use ignorance in the correct context here, because from what you've described, I don't hear um, the minister to be having any legal leg to stand on. Um, on the contrary, he should be. I hope he did make a criminal complaint, and he should be prosecuted criminally and in the civil courts as well. That's my view. This is ridiculous, and the
Well,
fact that so far nobody from the government has said anything. The assault was committed in the presence of the press secretary, who's herself a woman, in the presence of the minister. Why are they so silent? Can they condemn the unlawful act of their colleague?
well, Claudette, when you look at the photograph, they're refusing to use the video. I've been told by media people and people who are discussing it behind the scenes that they are waiting a response from the minister in order to do a story. Now,
Hopefully.
this happened.
Wait.
Yes,
You were awaiting a response from the
yes.
minister to do
Before they will do anything. Yes.
what media house was that?
All of them, I suppose. But the thing about they all called for interviews. WeFM, I gave them an interview. I gave GBN an interview as well. But they are holding on to the story until they can get the minister to give his side of it. I'm not sure why he hasn't given his side of it as yet. He started giving his side of it even before I hit the ground. So I'm wondering about the delay and the reluctance. And of course, the situation was videotaped by GBN. And the fact is, the person who was behind the camera doing the videotaping is an executive member of the Media Workers Association. The president of the Media Workers Association was in the room. So people were there and they saw what happened, and there is no hindrance, no normal hindrance to doing this story and presenting the facts as they appear. I have no fear or no worry at all about the story being reported. And in fact, what saddens me is not that the law and my lawyers and so will be the ones that I look to in this situation, not necessarily the members of the media as an individual, but as a journalist in this country. This is one of the worst periods for us. They have
Right.
given the worst account of themselves ever. I am embarrassed to say that I'm a member of the Grenada Media Corps because this is not how journalists operate. If what they saw makes me look bad, it doesn't matter. Report it. Obviously, it doesn't, and that's probably one of the reasons why everybody's hush hush and doing the stories in chat rooms instead of coming out and giving the public some information. I cannot do the story. I am a subject of the story, so I cannot do it. Um, but they should do it wherever the facts lead. The story must be written, no matter what. The story must be written. And the minute you decide you're holding a story for any other reason except that you cannot verify the information that you
Right,
have,
exactly. Exactly.
we have a problem. We have a
You know,
problem. And
um, um,
we have disappointed the country and we've let the people down.
Kalisha, one of the things I understand is that a significant portion of the executive of MWAG, including the president and vice president, are government employees, whether public officers or by contract. And that situation, if it's correct, is a major problem because immediately they are in a conflicted position where they would naturally fare for their jobs if they report certain matters. In the Bar Association, for example, lawyers who work with the state are not allowed. I can't remember whether it's in our bylaws or it's by convention, but they are not allowed to sit on the executive of the Bar Association, although they are invited to participate in all activities of the Bar Association. And perhaps that is what should obtain with the Media Workers Association, because how could you be independent when your executive members are beholden to the state?
Well, we are discussing that now. A few people who are not particularly happy about the direction things have taken um, are discussing it now. They are finally beginning to realize the dangers of what we allow
Very
to
dangerous.
happen. And a lot of it had to do with not not participating. One of the first things that happened was that the politicians came after MWAG from within. It was our own members who were used in order to manipulate and corner MWAG into the situation that we are in right now. And at the time, people like to be popular and belong to the interesting and the beautiful people crowd. And I think people bought into that. That I had the minister's number, and people were calling me, and people asking me for favors, and people were willing to do the favors. And what ended up happening was that MWAG is now controlled by people who ought not to have control of such a sensitive association that will inevitably go up against the government at some point or the other. And since 2013, there was this attempt to gain control of MWAG, and I watched it happen. I mean, the March 2013 general elections of officers for MWAG, the president was elected by nomination, not one vote was cast. And this was orchestrated on Blackberries were out in those days. Blackberries were popular, and we were just getting into the social media thing, and people got their cues via messages on these phones as to when to nominate and when to move for nominations to cease and so on. And it was like a spitfire thing, and in under 15 seconds, the president was nominated unopposed. And from then it was downhill. From then we kept, and I think a lot of the people who really genuinely want MWAC to function properly and want journalism to be practiced properly in Grenada have taken a backseat. They've given up on the association. A lot of people have gone into different jobs because the media does not pay really. So other people have gone into different jobs. People have traveled, and some people have just given up even trying to help move anything forward. And so we find ourselves in a situation now where about 3 or 4 of our executive are, the Minister of Information is their boss, and the Minister of Information is now attacking press freedom. So what do you do? Do you pay for your car, or do you defend Callisto?
Alrighty, folks, there you have it. That was an excerpt from yesterday's edition of Sundays with George Grant as we discussed the issue of last week. Some comments on Facebook here. T.F. Richard says the minister may not be able to give his side for 2 reasons. 1, pit bulls have short memory. And 2, the owner may have muzzled his pit bull. John says, it sounds like Pastor Tearaway needs some anger management courses. Didn't I hear that said about the Spice Mass issue some time ago? TF says, though I may agree with Claudette on the course of action, I hope that she's giving it solely as an attorney and not as an opposition member. Good point, TF. Hold on a sec here, hold on a sec. Margaret says, I can't imagine an attorney telling a client that they should publicly disclose details of an incident that may be going to trial. Just saying. Mags is just saying. Now, I'm going to try and make some sense out of this one. TF says, George, I may be chastised by some circles for this, but I'm always of the opinion that in public office there are certain levels of morality that should be exercised. And on this, not I think the following is morally wrong. Come on, TF, come on. 1, the head of state should not be a single person, but a person who shows the morals of a family structure. 2, a Speaker of the House being an alleged atheist. 3, a married Prime Minister who is refusing to update his status and being allegedly seen differently in certain circles. Just my take. Arthur Langine says, the PM just thinks he is Grenada's God, and nobody, oh God, guys, please, please. Osbert James says, is this the same ladies with the swing? One, Osbert, I don't think there's more than one lady here. This is Callistra Faria. And yes, I think I know what you're referring to, the incident where she apparently had an iPad or something slapped out of her hand, whatever. TF says there are certain entities that no longer exist in Grenada, and if they do exist, they're worse than a dormant volcano. For example, MWAG, unions, Conference of Churches, social partners. Okay, folks, here comes your national report.
Prime Minister says government is clear on intentions to improve operations of cabinet. Details to this story and more in the national report. Welcome back. With the details to the news of Friday, September 13th, I am Sherry Ann Noel. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell says the new cabinet manual, which was approved 3 months ago, speaks to the clear intentions of his administration to improve the operations of cabinet. He was addressing his cabinet colleagues and permanent secretaries at the start of a workshop to implement the new cabinet procedures. Pointing out that it took a significant amount of time and resources to get to this stage, Dr. Mitchell urged cabinet members to adhere to the rules to effectively perform their required duties.
The benefits of the procedural changes included in the new cabinet manual include more strategic cabinet meetings, colleagues with smaller agendas, less time spent on routine issues, more time for in-depth discussion on how to address our nation's major priorities as reflected in the government's medium-term agenda and other developmental plans.
The manual also includes text on a new process for proposed legislation and for more consultations in preparing policy proposals. He says further consultations will ensure sound decisions are taken, with all sectors working together to achieve common goals.
The revised template, therefore, for cabinet submissions must prompt ministers to include evidence, and therefore ministers have to insist that their permanent secretary do no less. Provide evidence and analysis to support those proposals so that we can be assured that we be choosing the most effective options and can implement it with adequate resources and management. It also would include a summary of preparation of a summary of implementation plans. It's no point. We'll come up with the best decisions and policy, initiative, and activities. And then the implementation is not there.
Dr. Mitchell says once understood and implemented in the right format, the end product will be a stronger cabinet secretariat. The workshop sought to assist ministries through their ministers and permanent secretaries to utilize the most important templates required under the new procedures for submissions to Cabinet. The project was initiated in 2017 by Cabinet with support from the World Bank, and the new manual was approved in June of 2019. Cabinet Secretary Mrs. Beryl Isaac says while the new manual is consistent with the practices of countries with a cabinet system similar to that in Grenada, it is suited to our context.
Today's engagement is part of our change management strategy that was developed jointly with Dr. Johnston, and we will be reaching out to different levels of the public service in sessions like this one to secure widespread acceptance of and compliance with the procedures in the manual. It will soon become evident through this engagement that the new manual emphasizes greater use of evidence in preparing policy proposals for cabinet submissions.
The initiative, she says, was born out of the realization that there is need for greater efficiency and effectiveness in the delivery of public services.
At a time characterized by resource constraints and increasing citizens' demands, it is critical that we examine and improve our practices to make the best use of our resources and deliver better services to our people. The new Cabinet Procedures Manual is the product of an attempt to do just that. In 2017 and the years following, the Cabinet Office received technical assistance from the World Bank to conduct a comprehensive review of the Cabinet procedures. This process was inclusive and incorporated the inputs of ministers and permanent secretaries. The review was led by the World Bank consultant, Dr. Mark Johnson, who has extensive knowledge of cabinet systems, having worked, and he's still working, with several cabinets throughout the world.
David Hopking, Acting Policy Development Officer in the Cabinet Office, told the ministers and permanent secretaries that it is important to see the workshop in the context of the roles and functions of the office, the highest administrative office in the public service.
Therefore, we are the center of excellence. Basically, Cabinet Office is expected to support the Prime Minister and his Cabinet in effectively delivering on government's programs. The Cabinet Office is responsible for coordinating the effective implementation of government policies, systems, and procedures, and the overall performance of the public service for efficient administration of government.
Dr. Johnston Mark, World Bank advisor and consultant who was instrumental in developing the new Cabinet Manual of Procedures, encouraged the ministers and permanent secretaries to use every opportunity to engage on any aspects of the text needing clarity.
but it's been very much a joint effort. There have been quite a number of the changes that are in this new manual are initiatives of the Cabinet Office, not from me. Hoping that you all contribute enthusiastically to this day. There's quite a bit of time spent on the program of people making contributions and working things through. And I would particularly like to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Prepare for hurricane. Prepare for hurricane. Make sure you have your radio and your batteries too. Waterproof flashlight candles will do. Tin stuff, garbage bag, first aid kit. Come on people, make sure you have it. Clean water in a container and a hurricane plan. Hear me no man.
Hurricane damage is beyond your control. Surviving the aftermath is up to you. Have a hurricane plan. It can save your life and your family too.
Prepare for hurricane. Your hair, prepare for hurricane.
Welcome back. A two-member delegation from the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture wrapped up a 3-day visit to Grenada on Friday as part of moves to provide additional support in the modernization of this country's agriculture sector. Details in this story by Mina Booker, Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture.
The mission provided an opportunity for ICA to get a better understanding of some of the challenges the agriculture sector faces, so as to put in context the significance of the contributions made to the Marabou Abattoir.
ICA sees itself as an integral partner to ensure that we respond to the priority needs of the member states as it relates to what are the challenges and the key issues that will advance the agricultural sector. There are various ways in which we see we add value to working with our member states. For example, we have technical experts, we have a lot of research material, and one of the things the Minister highlighted this morning was the whole question of R&D, research and development. We have networks with various institutions, other international, regional institutions, as well as community groups. We also have some resources that we get from our member states, as well as we mobilize from other institutions, donor agencies that we can bring to support the various countries. In particular, we have provided some support to this abattoir as one of the, I wouldn't say flagship, but one of the initiatives we have made a commitment to supporting the government of Grenada.
That's Ms. Beverly Best, ICA's Director of External and Institutional Relations. The ICA delegation met with ministers and permanent secretaries of the Ministry of Agriculture and Foreign Affairs respectively. Following a meeting with the Minister of Agriculture and Lands, Honorable Yolande Bain Hosford, on Thursday 12th September, the delegation, comprising of Ms. Beverly Best and Mr. Greg Rollins, ICA's representative in the Eastern Caribbean, ECS, visited the Marabou Abattoir, a facility that ICA has been supporting. They were accompanied by Mr. Derek Charles, ICA's national specialist in Grenada. ICA became involved in the project in 2018 when a request was made by the Ministry of Agriculture for technical support. Mr. Greg Rollins, ICA's representative in the Eastern Caribbean, based in St. Lucia, foresees that the abattoir will contribute to an increased production in livestock.
I think the abattoir is in fairly good shape. It is a facility that really would allow for the expansion of the livestock industry here in Grenada. Obviously, there's a need for some work to be done, and this is what ICA is doing. We are working with the government of the Ministry of Agriculture and with other agencies to see how we can help to get the abattoir to a point where it's at, state of the art, but also serve as a basis, most importantly, for the increase in the production of livestock.
In June of this year, the organization conducted an assessment of the equipment of the facility and exposed several workers at the abattoir to safety regulations when using equipment. Chief Livestock and Veterinary Officer Dr. Keemond Cummings expressed the ministry's gratitude for ICA's continued support.
I want to say thank you to Ms. Bess and Mr. Rollins for the visit here today. The ministry is committed to working with ICA. ICA has been a partner with the Ministry of Agriculture for quite a long time, and we continue to be working with ICA. ICA has continued to keep supporting us, and we are really grateful to have these two delegates here from ICA today.
For the Ministry of Agriculture's Public Relations Unit, I am Mina Booker.
The U.S. Navy hospital ship USNS Comfort is now in Grenada waters, in preparation for its week-long assignment administering free medical care to Grenadians from September 15th to 20th. Dr. Francis Martin, Senior Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, says they have been conducting discussions for about 2 months in preparation for the visit, and having done due diligence are satisfied that all on board are qualified to provide professional medical care to Grenadians. While people will be required to visit the Trade Center, Kirani James Athletic Stadium for screening, there is a list of people at the General Hospital in need of surgery who will be automatically taken to the ship.
The ship would be for more serious services and surgeries, especially surgeries that have been pre-arranged. In the General Hospital, we have a waiting list of persons needing surgeries for cataracts and hernias and so on. We've sat with the medical director and went through the list of persons who were on the waiting list 18 months to get surgery. And we've sorted those out and see some of those who can receive surgeries under the ship. Those have been listed. They will be called during the day today and tomorrow. And they are expected to come to the stadium tomorrow so that the surgeons on the ship can actually get to see them and look at them and make sure that they're ready for surgery. And first thing Sunday morning, their surgeries will be given to them. And those are people who are pre-arranged at the General Hospital. There are some people who probably are not pre-arranged at the General Hospital, but you know you're a person who needs that kind of surgery. You don't have to wait to be called from the hospital. You can come down to the site, and once you're deemed requiring the service, they'll take you out to the ship.
The ship will conduct approximately 100 on-board surgeries, provide medical services at the 2 land-based medical walk-in sites, and support community outreach to address public health issues. On-board surgeries will fall under the categories of ophthalmology, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, wound care, and neurology. Adult medical services, pediatric medical services, dental, physical therapy, and dermatology will be offered at the walk-in medical sites, which will operate from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day on a first-come, first-served basis. Dr. Martin says all is in place to ensure adequate follow-up care where necessary.
At the exit of the ship after surgery, we have Grenadian healthcare providers who are going to take a note of everybody receiving surgery and to be able to plan their follow-up management. And it's very critical because the Grenadian healthcare providers understand the systems very well. And of course, the follow-up will take place either at the General Hospital or the community clinic, depending on the circumstances of their surgeries.
The visit of the USNS Comfort is part of the ship's 5-month deployment to Latin America and the Caribbean on a medical assistance mission. And with this, we come to the end of the National Report for Friday, September 13, 2019. Recapping the top story, Prime Minister says government is clear on intentions to improve operations of Cabinet. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sharian Noel, thanking you for viewing.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to take us now to 18 minutes after 10 o'clock. Forgive me, running over time, but I just thought we had to get that in. So let's wrap it up with a parting word from the Holy Scriptures this morning. And today's reading comes to you from the book of Matthew 23, 1-7. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, quote, "The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for show, for people to see. They make their phylacteries wide and the tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to be called rabbi by others. Matthew 23, verses 1 to 7. Okie doke, pilgrims, not going to keep you any longer. So grateful for your company this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. And let's get together again tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Hopefully until just 10. Ray should be in here tomorrow morning. Ray usually has to leave just a little bit before 10. So we'll probably let you out of here on time tomorrow. God bless you, friends.